But I also think an element here that is important is how bad the impending free agent class is. Because if you are going to want to improve for next year, there's a good chance you're going to try to get some work done now.
The Predators might make the playoffs, and we've kind of been talking about, like, they're going to trade O'Reilly. Someone might figure out how to get Stamkos. Maybe Marcia so happens. There are guys on that roster who could move. What if they don't move? And do we know who's actually going to get traded? And you responded like, no idea. So we should probably talk about that. Like, we got a couple of names, but right now where we stand, January 14th, the United States and Canada, I don't know which teams are actually going to trade their players. And let me give a little more information. As I said earlier in the show, none of the teams in the East are out of it. Every team but the Rangers is 5-10 or better, and the Rangers are 489. So, like, win a couple of games, you're probably in that mix. We've talked about guys on the Predators, O'Reilly, Stamkos, etc., but they've been really good the last 2 months, and they are right there. So I don't know if you have thoughts before we get into pulling up a list of teams that Sean put together. Want to do that? Or
Yeah, there is one guy that I am certain is getting traded.
Rasmus Andersson?
Correct. Because his own teammates were like, yeah, we know he's getting traded, and that was before the season started, and the Flames aren't good. What?
No, is that not kind of evidence of just the contrary? Because before the season started, they were like, this guy's getting traded, and they weren't able to trade him.
Rasmus Anderson.
No, I don't think it was a weren't able to trade him. It was just a didn't find the right deal yet. And they're definitely trading Rasmus Anderson. I will put whatever you want on it.
Yeah,
they're gonna trade him.
I think
Squirrel
they
suit?
thought what's that? Squirrel suit. Yeah.
Squirrel suit?
I will wear a moose suit if they don't trade Rasmus Anderson.
Goose
I like that.
suit. It's a circus term. If Rasmus Anderson doesn't get traded, you wear a moose suit. And if Rasmus Anderson does get traded, Sean wears a goose suit.
I think that's unfair to Sean.
It's unfair in favor of Sean.
Oh, sure,
because everyone's going to think he's
jacked.
jacked.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to think he's buff. Look at his horse chest. Everyone's going to be simping over you, Sean. You wear a goose suit to a Sabres game and take your shirt off.
Okay, yeah, it'll look really weird. I was gonna say we should do. I feel like we're gonna have a new version of the Rower Hour on the trade deadline stream this year.
Yes,
it could. I don't know I don't know how do you do a fun rhyme with goose suit, but we could wear goose suits during the trade deadline at like 3 a.m.
Anyone who's new to the show, every year we do a 24-hour stream for the NHL trade deadline, because when teams have their last days, hours, minutes to make trades, there's always shows that are live and they're discussing what's happening in real time. And we wanted to make sure that we were the preeminent one and that we could be the most important one. So by doing that, so in an attempt to do that, we decided to do a 24-hour stream. And we've done it 2 years in a row. We'll be doing it a third year. Sean will be here. Last year, we did, because we need to keep ourselves busy during some of these, and awake. So one of the hours last year, we did the Rower Hour, and we dressed up like dinosaurs and took turns where one of us at a time, or we would spin a wheel to see who had to do it. And for the next, was it hour?
20
No,
20 minutes?
it was. I forget exactly how it did it, but at any 20-minute interval, any three of us or any of us three could be. So there was a point at which where two of us could roar and only one person could talk.
Yeah, so anyway, the only way that person could communicate would be by saying "rawr, rawr." So, but we were still doing a show. We're professionals. We're newsmen. So we were still doing the show despite being dinosaurs and
we broke news, kind of like the ranting and stuff popped off early in the morning last year when everyone was asleep, was it not?
I think it happened during the Rower Hour. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the Rower Hour, but it was definitely early.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the Rower Hour, and these are the bottom 10 teams by points percentage this year. You have the Preds, who are 1 point out of a playoff spot. Senators at 522. I'll allow them, given their current state. Ducks at 511. I can't think they can consider themselves out of it. The Blue Jackets just hired a new coach. Mm-hmm. The Rangers at 489. Blackhawks, they have some guys we can talk about in a second. The Blues at 468. The Flames 457. Jets at 456. Canucks at 402. Jets are interesting there because are you allowed to throw in the towel if you're the Jets?
I don't necessarily know if it's throwing in the towel versus like we know that we need to make changes. You know what I'm saying? Like they are getting all of their offense from 3 guys basically.
Which was the case last year.
Right, but they had unbelievable all-world goaltending that went away for a little bit this year. Yeah, I mean, like I would say if the Jets make trades, they are like selling off expiring assets and repositioning rather than stripping it down.
Okay, well, teams in a very congested East right now assume that they're probably not going to be able to jump that many teams. Ottawa, for example, where I think I'd have to look, but Ottawa, let's see, NHL standings. Ottawa's there. They're in the mix. They're 6 points out of a playoff spot, which can be done, but it's tough. But they would have to jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So do you think the teams that are in that kind of spot, even the Devils, who are 5 points out of a playoff spot, have good players, but they got to jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some teams I think will shake loose there where they're just like, we're not going to be able to jump this many teams. But there's also the perspective of if we just win our games, if you're winning at a 522 clip, or if you're the Panthers, 567 clip, you think we just play good hockey the rest of the way, we'll probably get in because some teams will fall. The problem is you need a lot of teams to fall to do it. So I think some teams in that area will sell, but I bet a bunch will kind of have too much pride or want to make their stretch run interesting for their fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of teams that aren't going to want to take the playoff revenue off of the table, like the possibility of it.
Bruins.
Whether it comes
I was going to say, it's coming from a Bruins fan.
Ownership. Yeah, so like I think that's very plausible. Important is how bad the impending free agent class is. Because if you are going to want to improve for next year, there's a good chance you're going to try to get some work done now. And whether that means, like, again, selling off real pieces and flipping them into something else, or using expiring assets to maybe get something a little bit more long-term, like deals are going to happen. And it's not necessarily just going to be the teams that are hard selling.
Chat says the Tonight Moose, in parentheses, ice cream. That's a really good one.
Nice.
Obvious guys to get traded. You said Rasmus Andersson. I'll add Kiefer Sherwood to that list, but I'll also say I don't know that he's getting traded because there has been talk that in reporting from Elliot Friedman that the Canucks want to know what his number is. Want to know, like, what would it take for us to keep you?
The Canucks are so unpredictable and insane at times that you cannot know their next move. I could easily see them pivoting from, like, obviously these guys are trading Kiefer Sherwood to 5-year extension for Kiefer Sherwood. Let's keep this thing open.
While we're talking about the Canucks, and those are like the 2 guys that I'm pretty sure those guys are getting traded. And then from there, if you want to stay in Vancouver, you could go to Elias Pettersson, who's been talked about since his new contract began, really. He's in the second year of an 8-year deal that pays him $11.6 million. If they decide, even though the whole JT Miller thing blew up and they like picked their guy.
His clause kicked in.
Yeah, and they decide like this isn't the contract that we want to have long term. You're right. Like too many things have pointed to them picking, all right, we'll stick with this guy. But you never know because as you said, they're unpredictable. Evgeny Malkin, Penguins are 1 point out of a playoff spot. Are you moving? I don't know if they will be in March, but I know that before the Olympics, they're not going to be far out of it.
I don't see the Malkin thing happening because of where they are right now and the sit of it all.
An interesting one is Nick Foligno with the Blackhawks, because the Blackhawks are in a position where, yeah, selling would be understandable, but would they trade their captain? And further to that, Nick Foligno doesn't have trade rights, but I would put him in the category of like the team morally is required to do right by him because his daughter has a heart condition and he's like had to take time away from the team this year because she needed surgery. So like I think that's a player where it doesn't matter if they don't have a no trade list or whatever. You go to them and be like, hey, like you're the captain of our team. You've been really good to us. You've been great to the city. Would you want to be traded? Would you be okay with it? And if you even have reservations, it's not happening. So
I hope that's the way it goes.
So that's another player that you put in the like could be traded, but really would they? Artemi Panarin with the Rangers is a UFA at the end of the season. they have to want to keep him.
Do they?
I mean, I wouldn't, but
And by wanting to keep him, from what we've heard, they want to keep him at a like value number. They want him to take a discount. And I don't know if Artemi Panarin's going to do that. And like based off of the way that the Rangers season is going and their trajectory, why would he want to do that? I think the Rangers, given their current situation, the outlook of their team, and their willingness to keep Panarin at market value, they'd be idiots not to trade him.
yes, I agree with that. And on the whole, like they want to keep him at a discount. How'd they get him in the first place? He'd be in Columbus right now. If I don't know if he wanted to stay in Columbus, but
It seems very evident that he did
not want to stay in Columbus.
Yeah.
But like he would be where he could be somewhere else if it wasn't about the money, is what I'll say. He went out and he got the big contract with the flashy team in New York. And yes, on the Blackhawks, they do have other guys that they could trade. Matt Grzelcyk, Jason Dickinson, Connor Murphy will probably have some sort of market. So there are guys that they could trade. But when we talk about like who's getting traded, the big names and everything, respectfully, those aren't the hugest names. The Blues are an interesting case because they have some guys on expiring contracts. They've got the Matthew Josephs of the world. They've got Robbie Fabry. But then after that, the guys that could be traded, are a lot of them up? I don't think they are. Like Robert Thomas is signed long-term.
But
Jordan Kyrou signed long-term.
We've seen, I think Kyrou is much more likely than Robert Thomas, or should be. But like the fact that Robert Thomas's name is kind of sneaking out there right now is kind of wild to me and signals that the Blues absolutely do not believe in their core group and what they have right now. And that, like, if you trade Robert Thomas, your whole operation is hitting a reset button.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, if the Blues feel like that's where they are and they want, and they can get value for Robert Thomas, I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world to hit the reset button on where they are right now. But I wouldn't trade Robert Thomas for the sake of doing it. Like, you got to make sure that you maximize what you're getting back for him. That's an 80-plus point player who is awesome in a 200-foot game, would be an incredible value add for a lot of teams across the league.
Let's do one more Canucks guy because you brought him up before the show. Jake DeBrusk is in the second year of a 7-year deal that pays him $5.5 million. He's got 12 goals this season, 10 assists for 22 points. He had 48 points in 82 games last year. Jake DeBrusk is going to score goals, and he's not going to do much else. Respect. He can have a little bit of an edge to him. Yeah,
he's not completely one-dimensional, but he clearly has a strength. And
offensive production-wise, I will say, I guess what I'll say is he's not a playmaker.
Yeah.
He's more of a finisher, which is great, and he's a great goal scorer. I would trade for, and I would target Jake DeBrusk if I were another team.
Like
$5.5 million for perhaps who?
Bring him home.
Bruins?
No.
Bring him home to
the Oilers.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Bag Milk has noted this a couple times. Like, instead of doing we're going to try to sign a bunch of $4 million guys. Like, if you could have just done like a $6 million guy instead of two $4 million guys, you're actually going to get a good player with that $6 million guy, a DeBrusk type versus, but who knows? Maybe DeBrusk would profile as an Arvidsson or a Mangiapane who gets there and they're like, you're not definitely going to be a top 6 forward.
There's always going to be teams that are on the cusp that want goal scoring help. Yes. It's just whether or not you want to make the commitment in terms of years and dollars that it would take to get a guy like Jake DeBrusk. Like, that contract can be a real weight on a team that is kind of up against it.
True. Sean,
we can't hear you.
You're right. No, you just said teams on the fringe that might want goal scoring help. That's the Buffalo Sabres, baby. I know Panarin, Sabres, like Twitter was talking about Panarin. There was a little bit of, I don't want to say smoke because there's never fires on Sabres Twitter. But, and like, I think I saw people talking about Robert Thomas too on Sabres. So, like, I think the Sabres are one of those teams that, like you said, are on the fringe that might want goal scoring help.
And to factor in the Sabres, Alex Tuch was a player that we thought would become available. Maybe he doesn't. Boone Jenner is a player that we thought would be available. We'll see what happens with the the Blue Jackets, but do you want to trade your captain if you're trying to get back in this thing?
Yeah, I think the Tuch case is pretty open and shut at this point, right? Like they can't trade him.
Can't trade him.
You couldn't afford to not trade him when you were at the bottom of that division and like looking like it was real bad. Given his value, he can't be traded from Buffalo when they're pushing for the playoffs and the vibes are good. He is a spiritual leader of that team. Yep. He definitely can't go anywhere.
I think it's unfortunate, but I think the Sabres are at a point now where they just got to be prepared to let him walk in the offseason, because I still don't think you can pay him $10-11 million or whatever it is, but you absolutely cannot. The team is not good enough to take for subtractions right now. Like, he's too important to the team. Yeah, but it is crazy that we're in. It's just crazy that we're in a point that the Sabres aren't on that graphic. That we're not talking about the Sabres being a seller.
No bad trades if you acquire a guy for like an overpriced addition at the trade deadline, and then you go on to win the Stanley Cup. Yeah. They say no bad trades. I feel like the Sabres are so down bad that there's no such thing as a bad no trade if that player helps get you to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Entirely.
No,
if the Sabres make the playoffs, this is such a win. And it doesn't mean that they're going to make the playoffs next year, but it means that stink is gone to a degree. It smells more like Cheerios than failure. And now, as you turn the page to whatever the next, Lindy's not going to be there forever, but you got a GM, you got good young players, you got a captain who's probably a little less exasperated with the situation. And if I projected there, I apologize to Rasmus Dahlin, but I think like the read has been that Dahlin, Tage are like, come on, like we got to do this. And I know that a lot of that is on those guys to do it themselves, but like moods change. If you just make the playoffs, even if you get walked because you say, we got there, we learned a lesson.
Yeah, I feel like the Dahlin and Tage like don't have one foot out the door, but they are putting on their shoes.
Yeah.
They're putting
they
on
at least know where the shoes are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I just we'll see. I'm interested too, like if them making the playoffs makes Yarmo's job a little easier. Like if there's just a single sign of life from the franchise, and I know it's not a good free agent class, but like if there's just something that should suggest that the franchise is in a complete absolute dumpster fire, that like maybe palm trees and taxes aren't quite as important as Kevin Adams suggested that one time.
Somebody in the chat asked about the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings, to me, are a fascinating buyer, or should be a fascinating buyer right now, because they swung and missed on Quinn Hughes.
They did not. They check swinged. They check swung.
Yeah.
They checked their swing, and I am disgusted with them for that.
And things are going right for the Red Wings, and it feels like they're knocking on the door, and they're a team, along with Buffalo, they have the second longest playoff drought. They need to get things going here. They're probably not going to be able to do it in free agency. A team like the Red Wings going out and getting Robert Thomas, where they are pretty weak down the middle, I feel like would change their outlook pretty drastically and make them one of the better contenders in the Eastern Conference. I would love a deal like that, and they have enough prospects to put together some firepower to make something meaningful happen.
Perfect fit. Go get Robert Thomas. This is going to be a fun trade deadline. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to What Chaos here on YouTube. You will get everything. Daily episodes, player interviews, and so much more. It's all here on the What Chaos YouTube. Hit subscribe.